usually we look at the three levels of preventive approaches in mind body. So one thing is to prevent the problem from happening. Second one is the supportive measures with intervention when illness happens. And then the third, tertiary prevention in how to improve quality of life, sustain the longevity, and then survivorship with the disability limitations. Now, when we look at the mind body, the core principle is calm mind, calm body, and mind over the matter. Now, mind body approaches are quite known to be helpful to relieve anxiety, also to reduce need for pain medications, quick recovery from surgical interventions and procedures. So these are kind of documented facts about this. So these are the common cited research, which kind of claims the benefit of mind-body things, meditation, yoga, breathing, pranayama. So reduce stress and anxiety, enhance brain function, cardiovascular health, depression, others like PTSD, insomnia, addiction, pain reduction, workplace efficiency and productivity, academic performance, intelligence, creativity, and learning ability, healthcare costs and utilization, integration of personality, longevity, free radicals, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, criminal rehabilitation. So as you see, it has a very wide spectrum, which has been time tested. Now, we'll not go into this, how different meditation states changes and affect our brain and mind body. So we'll go to the basic classification of yoga. So yoga is really way of life, comes from the traditional Sanskrit word, union of the lower self with the higher self, and it has 8 limbs. So why we call it 8 limbs and not steps? Because they are integral. So if we suppose pull the leg of a table, so whole the table moves. So the same way, they are all interconnected and integral with each other. So we can divide them into 2 parts. So the external preparation and then the internal discovery of the self. So yama niyama, we can call them as the administrators, and asana is the physical pose, which strengthens our body to be ready for the inner journey and exploration. And then pranayam becomes a tool which connects our mind and body. That's going to be our topic for today. So yoga looks at the perspective in quite a deep manner. So whatever we eat, our conduct becomes our thoughts and then actions, and action also leads to what we eat. So it's a cycle which has been described for a long time from the yogic perspective. Now prana equals to life force or consciousness, and it is the basic life principle that governs this universe, and it bridges the gap between mind and body. So all forms of energy are prana, both kinetic and potential. Now these are the different definitions given by this prana by different authorities. So prana governs this universe. Prana is from where all beings are born. Prana is higher consciousness. These are from Taittiriya Upanishad. Now the prana is also grouped into 5 different categories. So prana, the main energy into thoracic region. Apana, the downward force. Then vana, the distributed mainly into the limbs. Udana, the upward force. And then the samana, whole body integration. And as you see in the parenthesis, there is a description of how they correlate with the other parts of our body. So main breathing is happen through the prana. Then the elimination functions happen through apana. Then the distribution of the blood and things happen through the nerves, the senses. Then the udana, anything which brings upward, the vomiting, belching, coughing, anything to do with the vocal cords. And then samana, the whole body integration for the gastric and abdominal functions. So we'll do a small experiential activity now. So Though I can't see you, you just sit still and straighten the back and the spine, chin parallel to the ground, and then both the palms facing to the sky, right at the junction of the upper and the lower half of your body. Now, take a deep breath and then just close your eyes. So you're not doing anything but the observation. So see, is your breath coming through the chest or through the belly? And is your breath just in and out, or you see any variation? If we count a minute, then maybe how many counts per minute is your breath? And then do you feel any deeper connection when we really focus on our breath? So now slowly just breathe in, rubbing the palms together, locating both the palms on top of the head, to the face, to the arms, to the forearms, to the chest, in the back, going all the way to the toes. So rotate the shoulder forward, backward, ease the body, taking a moment. So let's use the chat box again to share your comments. So first question is, how many people feel the difference? Yes or no? That's the first question. All right, so a lot of yes. Okay, so how many people noticed their breath was into the chest? And how many noticed it was into the belly? And how many noticed that it shifted from chest to the belly? So a lot of people noticed the belly. So shifted from chest to the belly, belly to the belly, shifted chest to the belly, into belly. Wonderful. Thanks for participating. So it's a lot of fun to interact. So what must have, so who knows, what must have made this shift from chest to the belly? So anybody has any answers? How the shift happened? So we did some activity, awareness. When we take a deeper breath, it happens. Focus on breathing. So all that is true. So what we learned from this, that where our awareness goes, the conscious breath, automatically our energy also moves accordingly. Wonderful. Thanks for participating. Now we'll go to the idea that what is pranayam. So prana means life energy, as we seen. And what is ayama means optimal mastery over this pranic energy. And we have the perfect control over inhalation and exhalation. So if you look at this graph, which is on the right hand side into the black color, so you will see the line which is more vertical, that is our inhalation. So first our lungs are empty, we start inhalation. To the peak of the line, our lungs are full. Then when the line becomes horizontal, that's the time we are pausing. And then the other line which goes downward, that is the exhalation. And then we have the empty retention before we start with the new breath. So that's how typical yogic breath kind of manifests. So in the traditional form, this is called as Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka, and then Bahya Kumbhaka. So the Kumbhaka, the holding is two kinds, Antar Kumbhak and Bahya Kumbhak, the internal holding, and then when you exhale. So retention of the breath is very important, and that's really our switch to connect our mind and body. That's how we will look at it. So Now the scriptures, like the traditional scriptures like Hatha Yoga Pradipika mentions that when our life energy is still, it translates to our mind being still, that is chitta, and then that's when matter becomes energy. Then we go beyond the matter to, and then how to go to the energy. So from body awareness to the universal consciousness. And then what is written thousands of years ago into this scripture, it still validates with the in the light of the modern science. So Shiva Samhita mentions about 4 dimensions of pranayama. So when one becomes conscious and is awakened with the breath, that is called as arambha. When one is immersed and purified with the fire of pranayama, the ghata, deep inert connection and knowledge of breath patterns resulting in intimate connection to and getting to know to oneself, parichaya. And the fourth is internalization or sublimation, nishpatti, where seeds of our karmic actions are burnt, reset of karmic baggage, and then one goes beyond attributes called as gunatita. That means we transcend all this matter and then we fully light up into the our inner consciousness. So now breath is also one of the ways for body to get energy. So it's known that yogis and athletes have very high lung capacity. And in pranayama, there is more air transaction than just normal breathing, as there is an intimate connection and deep awareness to the breath. So pranayama is known to enhance efficiency of the lungs. So now how to start the practical application of pranayama? So one goes by force or discipline. So that's commonly known as hatha. One goes by free form with ease and self-pace, in tune with the laws of nature. So that's the approach given by the sage Vasishtha. So now you see, these are the two traditions. So one comes by firm discipline, and then one comes by your inner readiness. So when you are ready, you move on to the next level. Now, there is a saying that no force, no endurance or energy, na hatat, na balat. And then the other one is by practice, one can cross all the obstacles. So these are the two insights which we take, how this knowledge is applied traditionally. So now breathing and the respiratory system, so it encompasses two types of muscles, voluntary and involuntary muscles for respiration. So nose does filtering, warming, humidifying, sneezing, smell. Then the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, lungs, alveoli, pleura. So it goes finer and finer into the lung structure. Now there are supportive breathing apparatus like diaphragm, intercostal muscle, the muscle between the ribs, lung itself. Then the apical or clavicular breathing, neck muscles and upper parts of the lung. Mid-sectional breathing or intercostal central part of the lung. Now basal or diaphragmatic breathing, so lower parts of the lungs. So you can see pretty much we can focus and then modify this lung activity by these pranayama techniques. And that's why they became more popular, because they also help us to stabilize the mind, calm the mind, and then also connect our mind body together. Now, this yogic breathing is inclusive of all these above things what we explored. So the upper part, middle part, lower part. Now, when we look at the breath rate, variability happens with age groups. So newborn versus toddler versus adult. Now the physiological breathing variability among gender, male versus female, abdominothoracic versus thoracoabdominal, that's another physiological variation. When we talk about breathing into the yoga, we always look at the yogic breath as essentially abdominal breath. Now let's do a small activity where we say, let's close eyes for a second and then think, what is your average breathing rate per minute? And then feel free to share it into your chat rooms. And then also, if you can, if you know, also share what's the normal breathing rate in your opinion per minute. So I always say that the people who are in Silicon Valley, they are so fast paced and hurry that everyone breathes around 32 per minutes. Our normal breathing is around 16 to 22 per minutes. That's right, Aparna. And then yogic breath is to reduce under 8 per minute. That's when we start really feeling all these physiological benefits. So the regulated breathing has a lot of benefits as there is enhanced purposeful deep rest. So I see a lot of people, they are noticing that they're breathing slower and slower. Just every time you take a break, you notice a big change. Wonderful. Thanks for the answers. Now here is the physiological benefit from the pranayam. So pranayam is a connecting bridge, as we learn, between mind and body. So it enhances neuromuscular integration. So relaxation, that's the end product. So enhance oxygen supply, enhance nourishment of body cells, enhancement of the functions of various body systems such as respiratory and circulatory system, control modification of the breath with awareness like extended holding leads to slower heart rate with increased rest to the heart muscle. Based upon the techniques practiced, the metabolism can be slowed down or accelerated in controlled manner, which has many therapeutic potentials. For example, fire breath. So Agnisar. So high aerobic activity versus alternate nostril, which has the calming influence. Now these help into improve digestion and elimination, uplifting effect on the mood and the emotions, deep sense of relaxation, calmness and positivity, sense of energization, and then lightness at the physical, mental, and emotional level. So these are just really few glimpses of this. Now, this is what happens into the meditation when we are into the deep states. The common symptom what we get is the natural lowering of the breath. Now, when we are deep at deep rest, you notice a lot of other things happen. And then obviously meditation is more effective than just sitting with closed eyes and resting. So let's look at the spiritual perspective of pranayam. So these are all the things which I have taken from the different traditions. So it gives you willpower to become a master of oneself, enhancement of flow of life energy, prana or chi, removal of obstructions which impede the flow of the prana, regulation of thoughts, desires and actions, cultivation of purpose of life. Now pranayama removes the veil of illusion maya from the mind and helps self-illumination, says the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Pranayama is extraordinary austerity. Having mastered pranayama in Padmasana, one is ready to become a liberated soul, says Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Pranayam removes fear of death, says Shiva Samhita. And we'll not go into the nadis and chakras, but then they are also very important part of the pranayam practice. So we'll just glance through one or two some commonly used practices. So it is a preparatory practice of pranayam, the Kapalbhati. And the highlight of this technique is forceful exhalation, passive inhalation. And this technique involves hyperventilation. In the initial phase, there is an increased sympathetic tone, which is followed by parasympathetic predominance, leading to deep relaxation and rest. So it also helps to clear sinuses and respiratory tract. So can be beneficial with asthmatics, chronic allergies, and it also gives massage to abdominal organs, obviously improving GI health. Now the precautions So anybody who has exercise-induced asthma, blood pressure, severe stress, acute headache, migraines, epilepsy, who are menstruating, they should either do it gentle or totally avoid it for that certain amount of time. Another form of pranayam known as Bhastrika. This is advanced breathing technique, so that means it's not for everyone. It's a very high aerobic hyperventilation technique. It involves rhythmic forceful inhalation and exhalation. So the difference between the previous one, you see forceful exhalation but passive inhalation. Here they are both equal. So in cycles like 3, 5, 8, and 11, followed by the Ujjayi breath or the Kumbhaka, usually is repeated in sets of 3 or more cycles. Now this also creates initial sympathetic tone followed by parasympathetic response, resulting in deep relaxation. It also invigorates and energizes mind and body. When practicing this technique, many of the yogic traditions highly recommend following strict dietary guidelines and other yogic disciplines. So that means it's better to be learned and practiced through the proper mentor. Take it easy till get seasoned, as it can cause lightheadedness sometimes if you are not fully prepared. And the same precautions as we saw into the previous one. Now the alternate nostril, which is a very known and popular, so that called as Anulom Vilom, Nadi Shuddhi, Nadi Shodhana, these are the similar names. So this technique is known to create the equilibrium of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So you exhale and inhale through left nostril and then switch nostrils. That's one pattern, or exhale and inhale through right, one round. While practicing the technique, the exhalation is longer than inhalation. So what are the benefits? So it improves vitality, soothing and relaxing to the mind and body, removes the stress and anxiety, useful practice for spiritual progress because it creates a deep sense of calmness, tranquility, clarity, concentration, balance of energy channels, so Ida and Pingala Nadi. Now, precautions can be little tricky in the beginning to master the alternation of nostrils. Avoid any forceful inhalations if you have any sinus problems or headaches, especially if you know you have a chronic stress. Some seniors may find it difficult as they might forget the sequence, like where was I when I started? Possible difficulty with blocked nostrils or the condition called as deviated nasal septum. And then possible difficulty in practicing with somebody who has shoulder pain and then hand issues. Now the single nostril breathing, so it uses either left or right nostril to inhale. So those are called as Chandra Vedana and Surya Vedana based on which nostril we use. So the left nostril breathing is considered the feminine form. It's cooling, moon energy, known to reduce anxiety and can be possibly helpful with blood pressure. Supposed to be helpful for underweight and anorexia, so more of the mental challenges. Versus the right nostril is masculine sun energy, and it creates invigoration, energization of mind and body. And it also helps boost metabolism and weight reduction. So you can see they both have different effect into the practice and the outcomes. Now there is something called as sectional breaths. They are the Vibhagiya Pranayam. So they use all three, so called as clavicular Jeshta, thoracic Madhyama, abdominal the Kanishta, and then the full yogic breathing called as Brahma Mudra, and the sound with Om, and then the 5-dimensional breathing, inward, outward, sideways, forward, and backward. So these are certain practices which are typically part of the sectional breath. Now, benefits of these are simple preparatory practice. It helps create awareness about 3 lobes of the lungs. Its effect is more enhanced when mudras and chanting are used in side by side, and an enhancement with variations of energy with the hand. So because that mudras convey certain meaning. Now there are some cooling pranayam which actually creates cooling sensation into our bodies, called as Shitakari and Sadanta, where the tongue folded lengthwise, Shitakari tongue folded breadthwise, and Sadanta teeth clench. So tongue and health are connected. So mental tranquility, so pacify anger, irritations, reactiveness, slows down metabolism, cools down Agni, the Pitta, the fire, known to reduce excessive heat and then obviously to reduce inflammation. Deep calming effect can be beneficial for hypertension, useful practice for people with seasonal allergies, especially for the summer season. And I found it somewhere, so I use this, that make sure your brain and tongue is connected before you start talking. So this connection is very powerful process. So the tongue is the most highly used muscle into our body, as you know. Then the Brahmari Pranayam, this technique uses creating a humming sound like a bumblebee while the tongue is touching to the upper palate, teeth apart. And during practice, one can modify the pitch, high pitch, low pitch. When it practices the larger group together, it has even enhanced effect. With creativity, one can practice it as a group first and then different variations in the group. So there is a lot of option for creativity. And then the soothing vibrations, they relax our mind. Now it's a very simple practice for voice culture. It improves the tonal quality of our voice, creates the depth, so can be useful for actors, singers, speakers, enhances the lungs, good for clearing sinuses, soothing headaches, migraines, asthma, hypertension, and then also helps with insomnia and anxiety. Now, heightened and pervasive awareness into the self and the universe, lot of scope to visualizations like imaging, different type of subtler sounds and variations like birds and things like that. And then visions of different types called as Jyoti Darshan, experience at different mental states and levels, dissolution, merger of the mind in higher consciousness, and then Triputi means threefold processes of seer, seeing, and the seen, which is a very common description into the Vedic perspectives. And then finally, the state, the Samadhi. So voice and the chanting called as Nadanusandhana. So chanting Om, but into the and then creating the Omkara. And there are certain advanced practices like Ujjayi, slow inhalation and exhalation with hissing at the throat level. Inhalation Ujjayi, exhalation Ujjayi, which is more common. Both inhalation and exhalation Ujjayi. And then something called as Murcha Pranayam, and then the Plavani called as floating. So these are all from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Now this is a simple technique called as Shanmukhi Kriya. So breathing from one nostril and exhaling from the same with the humming sound. Then you change to the other nostril and then you open both the nostril and then repeat. So that's how, so right, left, and then the both. Now we also look at the pranayam as a sadhana, as a deep spiritual practice. So self and universal awareness, creative intelligence, expansion of awareness, creativity, law of nature, so the creation, maintenance, and destruction, so the destruction of the darkness to the knowledge. And then it prepares one for samadhi by acting as a bridge between the mind and the body. So this is a typical daily routine from the yoga and Ayurveda perspective. So it shows us the good practices for yoga meditations are early morning and then also in the afternoon. So here is a quote by Swami Paramahansa Yogananda where he says that practicing yoga poses just as an exercise or meditation just for relaxation is like building a new beautiful home and then living on the porch. So here is the insight what we get from both yoga and Ayurveda. When we see strength in problems, we stop resisting stress and then use it as an impetus for eustress or a positive stress. When we learn to evoke the stay and play rather than the fight or flight response, one can live optimal healthy life. And that's the beginning of the first book of chapter of our life. So now we'll go into the experiential practice. So we'll do two simple techniques. So one is like as we sit. So as I'm sitting, I'm going to bring my palms right into the end of the rib cage. Relax the shoulders, lift the chin up, and then for a moment, close eyes. So you take 2 breaths like this, and then you bring it to the middle of the chest, and then you breathe in, and then you breathe out. Now you bring all the way to the top of the shoulders, and then you do inhalation and exhalation 2 times. So once you finish, take a deep breath, rubbing the palms together, passing them through whole of the face, to the arms, to the forearms, to the chest, in the back, and then going all the way to the toes. Rotate the shoulder forward, backward. Ease the body, taking a moment. One more time, rubbing the palms, passing them through whole of the face, very, very slow, to the arms, forearms, to the chest. Going all the way to the toes, rotate the shoulder forward, backward. Ease the body, taking a moment. So make eye contact to the ground, very gently open the eyes. Now feel free to put in the chat room. So how many people feel the difference when you use the hand movement from the lower part to the middle part to the upper part? So what are your experience? So you felt the difference. And then this is a simple exercise to see that our awareness goes. So wherever my palm is, my breath moves with my palm. Yes or no? Very good. So some hands are coming up. And now feel lighter and more motion. Very nice. Now let's do one palm up and then one palm on the rib cage. And as you see, only my right side is moving. Now if I change, as you see, only left side is moving. Excellent. So everybody notice that? How many feel the difference that if I use only one palm and not the other, only one side moves accordingly. So very good. So now going into the next, I would like to share a small story. So the story is very simple that there was a sage, his name was Vishwamitra, and he wanted to become a very big grandmaster. And then when he went further, he he took a mantra from his father, and who was the creator of the universe. And he said, if you chant this mantra for 12 years, you will be the grandmaster. So he sat there into the Himalayas, into the cave for 12 years, and nothing happened. So he got kind of upset, saying, how can that be? I spent all this energy. And he was walking by, he met a sage, and he said, there is another sage like you who was also given the same technique. And then he fully evolved. He's really accomplished quite a bit. So he said, let me check how this person is doing. And then he went and he sat there. And then once the sage came out, he could see the big exponential change into the life of the sage. So he asked the sage, what is the secret of your evolution? How can you evolve so much? And the sage said, just like you, for 12 days, I was also sitting and chanting this mantra, Soham. Soham means I am He, till the point I came to the recognition that my breath is doing this for me. So when we inhale, the word is Sa, and when we exhale, the word is Hum. So two words together in Sanskrit becomes the word Soham. So that means every word of every time I breathe in is chanting the mantra for me. So awareness becomes the key. So the breath is a key to that awareness. And then the breath is the tool, is a bridge between mind and body. So that's where I end the discussion part of it. So now we'll do one more, just one moment silent practice. And we'll do a mental practice. So maybe we'll do practice in the beginning because some might be beginners. So watch at my palms. And then we inhale and think of breath up and down. Second time we inhale, think of the palms sideways. And third time we think of the palm forward and then backward. So I'll repeat so as you can close your eyes if you like. So inhale, so palm up and down. Pause, and then the second sideways, and the third one forward and then backward. So once you finish, take a deep breath and then close your eyes. So maybe for one breath we pause. So you breathe in, then you pause, then you breathe out, and then you pause. And then again, once we feel ready, rubbing the palms, pass it through whole of the face, looking at the floor, open your eyes, close them. And then one more time, rubbing the palms, passing them through whole of the face, very, very slow. And then very gradually open the eyes. And we'll do the last practice. So covering the eyes with the middle three fingers, pinkies on the chin, thumbs plugging the ears. And then we are going to breathe in. As we breathe out, we hum 3 times. Mm. 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 So slowly rubbing the palms together, passing them through the whole of the face, to the arms, to the forearms, to the chest, in the back, going all the way to the toes. Rotate the shoulder forward, backward, ease the body, taking a moment. Again, slowly rubbing the palms, passing them through whole of the face, very, very slow, and then very gently open the eyes. So that brings us to the presentation part. There is one question I see, what is a simple practice to begin with? So all these 3-4 different techniques we experimented with, we didn't spend a lot of time just because of the time constraint. But now as you experience it, now you can enhance them. The effect will be enhanced for yourself. And how long one should practice it, there is no specific limit. You can build your practice even starting from every hour, 1 minute, or you can segment into morning, evening. So based on whatever works for you.
The blood pressure and pranayam.
So the Shekhar, the blood pressure is something which, the common anything, it's always remember the breath is something which will not harm you. Only thing is that you have to use the right technique. So anything without knowledge or proper technique, if we don't do it, then it can have some detrimental effect. Not because the technique is bad, because the way it is practiced is wrong. So there are a lot of benefits, cardiovascular benefits for breathing and meditation. They're well documented. So that's the simplest way we can look at it.
Which is the most important pranayam?
The one simple answer is the pausing. Any pranayam which helps you to relax, just the inhalation, hold, exhalation, rest is a simple start.
How many times should we practice breathing techniques per day and for how long?
Yeah, I answered it before, so you can do it every hour, a minute, or you can take ideally twice a day. It's integral part of our yoga practice or any daily mind body practice we take. So if we do it twice a day, it has more benefit.
Why we hold the breath after inhalation and exhalation?
So that is the switch which triggers the autonomic nervous system from the sympathetic to parasympathetic. That means to the relaxation response.
You showed us both hands moving away from each other vertically and then horizontally. You mean to say lungs expand in vertical and horizontal directions?
Yes. So this is the why we use the palm is really to feel the navigation of the breath in the beginning. Eventually, we don't need to do that. We can just do it using our mind. And then as we learned that the movement of the palm, so when I do it, my focus is like this. When I do it, it's more like this. When I do it, it's forward, backward.
Savasana and pranayam.
Shavasana, any normal mind-body practice usually ends up into some sort of relaxation in the end. So it's surely integral part of what we do the practice.
How often and how long till it becomes a habit?
So means traditionally, as we know, that 16 weeks, 12 to 16 weeks, any lifestyle change. So we will probably take that into the model. Yoga has a little different description. So it starts with 21 days and then I believe 41 and then 61 days, something like that, to make it part of your routine.
Can you please guide us through the various breathing techniques?
So maybe sometime we'll do a practice session just to show the techniques. But in the slides, as I walked you through, it showed us all the possibilities of various breathing techniques. I will remind you what those are. One is the hyperventilation, where we use the diaphragm when there is the forceful exhalation and passive inhalation, forceful inhalation and exhalation, then just breathing through the right side, only breathing through the left side, breathing from both the side. Then the guided practice, more energy-based practice like we did, according to the direction of the palms, the breath follows. Or this practice when I'm touching to the rib cage, to the middle of the chest, to the top of the shoulder, and then how breath comes from lower part of the lungs to the middle to the up. And then on the where the left hand side, where the heart is, there are two lobes and the right hand side has three lobes. So all that variables become very powerful using these different ideas. Then the Brahmari, like we did, using this covering, and all of our five senses, they are into one place, into our head, neck, and face. So when we do the breathing practices along with the sound, they become even more potent. And then there's some like alternate nostrils, so where we find a lot of deep calmness. And then also uh, it is kind of a preparatory state for the meditations. So pranayam, so first yoga, then the pranayam, and then we are ready for the deep meditation.